Yeah, dear students, today we will discuss about the Indian Competition Act, various provisions, and especially we will talk about the anti-competitive practices as well as the abuse of dominance and regulation of combinations. It is divided into three parts, and today we will start with the Indian scenario of Indian Competition Act and also the anti-competitive practices, especially the horizontal agreements which we will see today in this particular class. And you know that in the Indian Competition Act was passed in 2002, which we mentioned in the last class, which came to effect in 2003. But yesterday also I have mentioned that because of due to the court cases and other legal problems, it was not able to enforce completely. And finally, in 2007, the Amendment Act was passed and the Act became operational. And the Competition Commission of India was again operational. It took another 2 more years and it became operational from 2009 onwards. And the combination rules were actually notified in 2011. And we will see these notifications in detail. If you look into the Indian Competition Act, and basically it says that it is to prevent practices having adverse effect on competition, and we will see elaborately, we will see what is this adverse effect on competition, and to promote and sustain competition in the markets and to protect interest of consumers, to ensure freedom of trade carried on by other participants in the markets in India. Now, the preamble very clearly says that what it want to achieve, and which is in commensurate with the modern competition laws of United States and European Union. And the mandate is very clear, and it very clearly says that the Indian Competition Act prohibits anti-competitive agreements, and we will see in detail what are those anti-competitive agreements. Then prohibit abuse of dominant position, regulate combinations, and also we will discuss about the Indian Competition Authority and what are the other duties. And if you look into the important provisions of the Indian Competition Act and section 3, which talks about anti-competitive agreements, section 4, which talks about the abuse of dominant position, and section 6, which talks about the regulation of combinations, and the competition advocacy of the Competition Commission of India, which we will talk in this section 49. And today our focus of our class is on the anti-competitive agreements, and which is classified into two important categories. One is horizontal agreements and the second one is vertical agreements. And what is this? As in the last class itself I have mentioned that what is the horizontal agreements and vertical agreements. And horizontal agreements are companies those who are played in the same area, the same plane, and the vertical agreements are at the different levels of their business. Within the horizontal agreements, and we will see elaborately what are those anti-competitive agreements, which are prohibited agreements under the competition law. These are agreements to limit production and or supply, the agreements to allocate markets, then agreements to fix prices, then bid rigging or collusive bid rigging or collusion between parties, and the vertical agreement includes tie-in agreements arrangements, exclusive supply or distribution arrangements, then resale price maintenance and refusal to deal and other concerted actions and practices which we will see on the coming classes. And today our focus is on the horizontal agreements. And what are basically the anti-competitive agreements? Anti-competitive agreements, certain behavior, yesterday also we talked about the behavior of firms, behavior of companies, behavior of the huge business firms. The anti-competitive agreements are when it happens, when two or more companies or two or more competitors specifically, they in the same market they agree to cooperate each other for fixing prices, and they divide the geographical market into different areas, and also in that ultimate objective to reduce competition in the market. And in 1958, in one of the United States cases, that is Northern Pacific Railway Company versus the United States, the court said that there are certain agreements or practices which, because of their pernicious effect on competition and lack of any redeeming virtue, are conclusively presumed to be unreasonable and therefore illegal without any elaborate inquiry as to the precise harm they have caused or the business excuse for their use. It basically means that what are anti-competitive agreements? The answer is very clear. Those agreements which are which have a pernicious effect on competition is known as the anti-competitive agreements. And we will see these agreements in, as I already told you, the Indian Competition Act has divided it into two categories. One is the horizontal agreements and other one is the vertical agreement. And basically the horizontal agreements are to control production, supply, markets, technical developments, investment or provisions of service. And also they share the market, source of production and allocation of geographical market, then limiting customers, and all these are against the basic principles of competition in the market. So, these will be considered in detail, these horizontal agreements. So, it is already said that these are in the pernicious category of activities of business firms and which are considered to be an adverse effect on competition, or otherwise it is anti-competitive in nature. And because all horizontal agreements are considered to be the per se anti-competitive or the per se rule. The per se rule is very important to understand. So, this presumption of horizontal, all horizontal agreements are presumed to be pernicious in nature and are considered to be anti-competitive in nature. So, section 3(3) then it very clearly says that it is presumed that such an agreement is anti-competitive and has an appreciable adverse effect on competition under section 19 of the Indian Competition Act, which we will see later. And the per se rule is applicable. I already said that the per se rule is applicable to the horizontal agreements, but the per se rule is not applicable to the vertical, not all vertical agreements. We will see in later which are those are applicable to the vertical agreements. So, vertical agreements are not per se anti-competitive, but horizontal agreements are considered to be per se anti-competitive. See, the vertical agreements, which includes the enterprises or business firms at different level of production, or they are in the chain or in different markets, and this includes I already said that tie-in agreements, exclusive distribution agreements, refusal to deal and resale price maintenance, which we will see later. And as I told you, if some kind of activity of a business firm is does not have an appreciable adverse effect on competition, then it cannot be considered, it cannot be prohibited. But what can be prohibited? If any activities which have an appreciable adverse effect on competition, which is explained under section 19 of the Indian Competition Act, which says that an agreement has an appreciable adverse impact or effect on competition or not. And these factors, so under this particular section, certain factors are taken into consideration for to determine whether there is an appreciable adverse effect on competition or not. These are creation of barriers to new entrant in the market and driving existing competitors out of the market, that is predatory in nature. Then foreclosure of competition by hindering entry into the market. Then accrual of benefits to consumers, you prevent the accrual of benefit to consumers. Then improvements in production or distribution of goods or provisions of services. Then promotion of technical, scientific and economic development by means of production or distribution of goods. So, if you have what you will say that illegal collaboration for any of these kind of activities, it will be considered as an appreciable adverse effect on competition and which is prohibited under the Competition Act. And also this creation of new barriers. The companies, those who are operating already in the market, can create new barriers in the market. So, the new entrants cannot enter into the market because of these barriers. So, these hindrances which have full freedom to enter or exit the market, allowing competition to prevail and substitutes to remain in the market. So, even these companies does not allow the substitutes to remain in the market also, and then it also be considered as an appreciable adverse effect on competition. And the second category is predatory in nature. What do you mean by predatory in nature? It is driving the existing competitors out of the market, so that you can capture completely the market. So, it is the firms to drive competitors out of the market owing to their monopolistic advantages used to maintain favorable prices due to efficiency of large scale production, or because of their even we can look into the dominant position in the market of due to various categories. So, they can drive out the small players from the market. So, this also have an adverse effect on competition. And the foreclosure competition, which we already I talked about, it refers to the ability of firms to singularly or jointly prevent the entry of firms in the market, including potential entrants. So, the large firms or the large players can prevent the small firms to enter into the market, and such foreclosure of competition is also have considered to be have an appreciable adverse effect on competition. Then accrual to you prevent the accruing of benefit to consumers. So, because of these anti-competitive agreements, anti-competitive activity, the price may escalate, which will leading to the enhancement of profit, but it will adversely affect the consumers, and it will have an appreciable adverse effect on competition in the market. That also is prohibitive in nature. Then also it is improvement in production and distribution of goods or provision of services, promotion of technical, scientific and economic development by means of production or distribution of goods. So, if these factors are also taken into consideration, whether there is an when calculating, when looking into the matter, when there is an appreciable adverse effect on competition.